Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new episode of my favorite soap opera, OpenAI. And as always, they've been hit with yet another wave of drama. So just today, an employee who has left OpenAI 2 weeks ago has now joined Anthropic, which is the direct competitor of OpenAI. Plus, the ex-board member who allegedly fired Sam Altman back in November finally speaks up about Sam Altman. We're going to go into all the juicy details of this, and a lot more. So let's get started. First of all, I just want to preface this by saying that I try to make this video as objective as possible. I'm just laying down all the articles and info that has come out so far, so you can decide for yourself what to believe and which quote-unquote side you prefer to take. So again, this is Helen Toner. This is the ex-board member who allegedly led the coup to fire Sam Altman back in November. If you're not familiar with the whole story back in November, check out this video. Anyways, let's hear what she has to say.
For years, Sam had made it really difficult for the board to actually do that job by, withholding information, misrepresenting things that were happening at the company, in some cases outright lying to the board. At this point, everyone always says, like what? Give me some examples. And I can't share all the examples, but to give a sense of sort of the kind of thing that I'm talking about, it's things like, when ChatGPT came out, November 2022, the board was not informed in advance about that. We learned about ChatGPT on Twitter. Sam didn't inform the board that he owned the OpenAI startup fund, even though he, constantly was claiming to be an independent board member with no financial interest in the company. On multiple occasions, he gave us inaccurate information about the small number of formal safety processes that the company did have in place, meaning that it was, basically impossible for the board to know how well those safety processes were working or what might need to change. And then, a last example that I can share, because it's been very widely reported, relates to this paper that I wrote, which has been, I think, way overplayed in the press. The problem was that after the paper came out, Sam started lying to other board members in order to try and push me off the board. So it was another example that just really damaged our ability to trust him, and actually only happened in late October last year when we were already talking pretty seriously about whether we needed to fire him. And so, there's more individual examples, and for any individual case, Sam could always come up with some kind of innocuous sounding explanation of why it wasn't a big deal or misinterpreted or whatever. But the end effect was that after years of this kind of thing, all four of us who fired him came to the conclusion that we just couldn't believe things that Sam was telling us. And that's a completely unworkable place to be in as a board, especially a board that is supposed to be providing independent oversight over the company, not just helping the CEO to raise more money.
All right, so I promise I'll get back to this video in a second, but let's backtrack a bit and give you some context on what happened in the past 2 weeks and why Helen Toner is suddenly speaking out right now. So around 2 weeks ago, a few top-level employees left OpenAI, including chief scientist Ilya Sutskever and Jan Leike, who was the head of alignment. Now, both of them did not reveal any specific details on why they left, but both were hinting at AGI, so there is a chance that they might have already achieved AGI internally, or they're very close to achieving it. And from their messages, it just seemed like they were concerned about the safety of this. So if you're interested in learning more, check out this video if you haven't already. Now, there's a reason why both Jan and Ilya and other ex-employees haven't really revealed anything about why they left, or any specific details on why exactly they're concerned about safety. And there's actually a good reason for that. So this is from a Vox article. The title is "ChatGPT Can Talk, but OpenAI Employees Sure Can't." Here, they say, I have seen, and I refers to the reporter at Vox who wrote this article, I have seen the extremely restrictive offboarding agreement that contains non-disclosure and non-disparagement provisions former OpenAI employees are subject to. It forbids them for the rest of their lives from criticizing their former employer. Even acknowledging that the NDA exists is a violation of it. So it seems like the agreement that they had to sign before leaving OpenAI is very restrictive, and I'll go into more details of this agreement in a second. But after this article came out, Sam responded with this. In regards to recent stuff about how OpenAI handles equity, we have never clawed back anyone's vested equity, nor will we do that if people do not sign a separation agreement. Vested equity is vested equity, full stop. There was a provision about potential equity cancellation in our previous exit docs. It should never have been something we had in any documents or communication. This is on me, and one of the few times I've been genuinely embarrassed running OpenAI. I did not know this was happening, and I should have. The team was already in the process of fixing the standard exit paperwork over the past month or so. If any former employee who signed one of those old agreements is worried about it, they can contact me and we'll fix that too. Very sorry about this. So this sounds like a very good response. He's admitting that he wasn't aware of this provision and he's working towards fixing it. He admits full responsibility for the oversight and he's going to fix it. So this seems like a good response, but on Twitter, they now have this AI function which kind of fact checks what people tweet out. So this is slightly embarrassing. Right under Sam's tweet, there's this window that says, according to leaked messages, senior leadership at OpenAI, including Altman, were very much aware of these equity clawback provisions and signed off on them. So that's strange. Here Sam said, I did not know this was happening and I should have, but then in this window it says, well, he was very much aware of these provisions. In fact, he signed off on them. So let's click on this article and see what it gives us. So this is a new Vox article. This is titled Leaked OpenAI Documents Reveal Aggressive Tactics Toward Former Employees. In the article, it says Vox reported that employees at tech giant OpenAI who wanted to leave the company were confronted with expansive and highly restrictive exit documents. If they refused to sign in relatively short order, they were reportedly threatened with the loss of their vested equity in the company, a severe provision that's fairly uncommon in Silicon Valley. So what does this all mean? To simplify this for you, OpenAI has a clause in their documents that basically says when an employee leaves, they need to sign this very restrictive document in order for them to essentially get their vested equity. Now, first of all, what exactly is vested equity? When you join a company, especially a startup, you often get options to buy shares of the company. Now, you don't have to buy it, but it's an option. Right? It gives you the option to buy these shares, usually at a very low price, much lower than what the company's share is actually worth. So that when you leave the company or in the future when you decide to sell the shares, you could earn that difference. This is one of the major financial benefits of joining an early stage high-risk startup. So these options could potentially sell for a lot in the future, especially if you're an early employee. Now, what about vesting? What exactly does vesting mean? So when you work at a company, they don't just give you all these shares or options immediately, right? They want to ensure that you actually do your job, you actually contribute to the company, and you actually stick around and provide value to the team. So typically, at least in Silicon Valley, it's a 4-year vesting with a 1-year cliff. That means during the first year, if you're fired or you leave for whatever reason, you get nothing. After that first year, then you start accumulating options or shares of the company. So you get the first 25% after the first year, and then usually every month after that, you get a bit of the remaining 75% up to the 4-year period. So this is totally acceptable, and this is totally standard in Silicon Valley. Now, Vox leaked that they had a very restrictive non-disparagement and non-disclosure agreement. Now again, these NDAs and this non-disparagement agreement is actually quite common in Silicon Valley. So this is a provision that prohibits the employee from making negative statements about the company after they leave. Again, nothing wrong with this. However, usually when someone leaves a company, they sign this agreement saying, I'm not going to reveal any secrets, I'm not going to disparage the company, in other words, I'm not going to say anything bad about the company, and usually in exchange, I get some compensation, so I get a sum of money or severance. So this is the standard. In order for the employee to sign this agreement upon leaving, they get some severance or some other compensation. However, it's not common to have the equity, the vested equity that the employee has earned all this time, taken away from them if they disparage the company. Like Sam said in his tweet, vested equity is vested equity, full stop. So it's definitely very strange and uncommon that an employee would have their rightfully earned equity taken away from them if they did not sign this non-disparagement and non-disclosure agreement upon leaving the company. So again, Sam admitted that it was his fault. This is on me, and one of the few times I've been genuinely embarrassed running OpenAI. I did not know this was happening, and I should have. And first of all, good on him for acknowledging this issue and taking full responsibility for it. However, from this Vox article, it seems like Sam might have known about this all along. Thanks to our sponsor, Abacus AI. Their platform Chat LLM is an awesome way to use different LLMs all in one place. This includes the newest GPT-4o, Meta's Llama 3, Anthropic's Claude Opus, and more. Not only can you chat with it like a regular chatbot, but you can also upload PDF documents and have the AI analyze them. Simply ask questions about the content and get detailed, accurate responses. You can also create custom AI agents designed to perform specific tasks, whether it's automating customer support, generating reports, or any other function. Your custom AI agent will handle it with precision. And collaboration is made easy with Chat LLM. You can invite team members to join the same chat thread, ensuring everyone is on the same page and can contribute to the chat. Moreover, Chat LLM integrates seamlessly with various enterprise platforms such as Slack, Teams, and more, so you can incorporate AI into your existing workflows without any hassle. Experience the power and versatility of Chat LLM by Abacus AI today. Try it for free via the link in the description below. Now back to the video. So here it says, but there's a problem with these apologies from company leadership. Company documents obtained by Vox with signatures from Altman and Kwon, who is OpenAI's chief strategy officer, complicate their claim that the clawback provisions were something they hadn't known about. A separation letter on the termination documents, which you can read embedded below, says in plain English, if you have any vested units, you are required to sign a release of claims agreement within 60 days in order to retain such units. In other words, if they don't sign this agreement, their vested units would be taken away from them. And these documents have been signed by Kwon, along with OpenAI VP of People Diane Yoon, and also by COO Brad Lightcap. So there's a discrepancy here. Sam claims that he didn't know about it, but some leaked documents to Vox suggest that Sam and other leaders at OpenAI signed these documents when employees left. And again, this is crazy and this is not standard. I don't even know if this is legal. Like, an employee should have the rights to their vested equity that they rightfully earned throughout working all those years at the company. Now, in Sam's defense, he's the CEO of OpenAI. He's a very busy guy. They have so much going on. I mean, his focus is not these legal provisions in a document, right? His focus is on building these AI models and building AGI. So in his defense, he might have just signed these documents without reading through every legal provision. I know, for example, when I was employed, I had to sign this very long document, and I admit I did not read every single line in the document. It's all just like legal jargon, which I don't even understand. Now, I should have read every line, but I didn't. I think it's the same situation in Sam's case here. He should have read every line in every document that he signs, but I mean, who actually does that unless you're a lawyer? So he might have just been told to sign a document without reading through it, in which case there is some truth to this. Sam really might not have known about these ultra-restrictive provisions. So then the article goes on by saying, throughout the hundreds of pages of documents leaked to Vox, a pattern emerges. Getting ex-employees to sign the ultra-restrictive non-disparagement, non-disclosure agreement involved threatening to cancel their equity, but it also involved much more. In 2 cases Vox reviewed, the lengthy, complex termination documents OpenAI sent out expired after 7 days. That meant the former employees had only 1 week to decide whether to accept OpenAI's muzzle or risk forfeiting what could be millions of dollars. A tight timeline for a decision of that magnitude. And I have to say, I do agree with this. This is a very tight timeline for someone to read through a very long legal document and come up with a decision. And again, threatening to cancel equity that you've rightfully earned from working years at a company, this is definitely not standard. Usually they would offer compensation like severance to get the person to sign this NDA instead of threatening to revoke all their vested shares. That just sounds crazy to me. And it gets crazier. So most ex-employees folded under the pressure. For those who persisted, the company pulled out another tool in what one former employee called the legal retaliation toolbox he encountered on leaving the company. When he declined to sign the first termination agreement sent to him and sought legal counsel, the company changed tactics. Rather than saying that they could cancel his equity if he refused to sign the agreement, they said he could be prevented from selling his equity. So that's weird. After this employee declined to sign this NDA agreement, he should have had his shares revoked from him, if that was legal. But it turns out OpenAI then changed tactics, and rather than saying they would cancel his equity, they said that he would be prevented from selling his equity. So from this change in tactics, it seems like the legal team at OpenAI might be aware that this first tactic of just revoking someone's vested equity, it might not be even legal. And so that's why they quickly changed tactics, and instead, the second time around, they said, oh, well, you can keep your equity, but we're going to prevent you from selling it. Now, this is beyond my legal knowledge. I'm not sure if a private company can legally prevent someone from selling their shares to someone else. But if this is true, again, this just seems very restrictive and indeed threatening. So OpenAI is trying to make things right. So OpenAI told the reporter, we are identifying and reaching out to former employees who signed a standard exit agreement to make it clear that OpenAI has not and will not cancel their vested equity and releases them from non-disparagement obligations. So that's a good sign. And then after this article came out, former OpenAI employee Andrew Carr tweeted this. So it seems like he has gotten an email from OpenAI which said the following. At the time of your departure from OpenAI, you may have held vested units of equity in Aistas Management Company, LLC, OpenAI Holdings. During the exit process, you may have been informed that you are required to execute a general release agreement that included the non-disparagement provision in order to retain the vested units. Regardless of whether you executed the agreement, we write to notify you that OpenAI has not cancelled and will not cancel any vested units. If you executed the agreement, we write to notify you that OpenAI does not intend to enforce the agreement and your vested units, if any, are not affected. OpenAI has not and will not cancel or forfeit your vested units, if any. And then if you have any questions, please contact HR. So this is a good sign. They are working towards fixing this issue. What this is saying is whether or not you signed that non-disclosure, non-disparagement agreement, none of your shares will be affected. And then also shortly after the Vox article, another ex-OpenAI employee, Jacob Hilton, tweeted this. When I left OpenAI over a year ago, I signed this agreement for no other reason than to avoid losing my vested equity. The agreement was unambiguous that in return for signing, I was being allowed to keep my vested equity and offered nothing more. I do not see why anyone would have signed it if they had thought it would have no impact on their equity. I left OpenAI on great terms. I had no intention to criticize OpenAI before I signed the agreement, but was nevertheless disappointed to give up my right to do so. Yesterday, OpenAI reached out to me to release me from the agreement, following Vox's excellent investigative reporting. So this ex-employee, who left OpenAI a year ago, also received an email from OpenAI releasing him from that restrictive agreement. And then he goes on by saying, because of the transformative potential of AI, it's imperative for major labs developing advanced AI to provide protections for those who wish to speak out in the public interest. First among those is a binding commitment to non-retaliation. Even now, OpenAI can prevent employees from selling their equity, rendering it worthless for an unknown period of time. In a statement, OpenAI said historically former employees have been eligible to sell at the same price regardless of where they work. We don't expect that to change. So he says, I believe that OpenAI has honest intentions with the statement. But given that OpenAI has previously used access to liquidity as an intimidation tactic, many former employees will still feel scared to speak out. Yada, yada, yada. And then he says, to many kind and brilliant people at OpenAI, I hope you can understand why I feel the need to speak publicly about this. This contract was inconsistent with our shared commitment to safe and beneficial AI, and you deserve better. So that was the end of his thread of tweets. Again, there's not much substance here, and by that I mean there's like no specific secrets revealed on like what they're building, if they have AGI, or what cutting edge projects they're working on behind the scenes. This is mostly commenting on the recent legal change due to Vox revealing all these restrictive provisions. But I do believe it was this email that released former OpenAI employees from this restriction that caused Helen Toner to finally speak up. Now again, just to quickly backtrack a bit, she, along with other board members, fired Sam Altman back in November of last year. And after the firing, they did not reveal why they fired Sam Altman. People were speculating that it might have been AGI. Maybe they've achieved something super intelligent and super dangerous if released into the world, and because of this, maybe Helen Toner and some of the board members, including Ilya Sutskever, thought that, alright, we're going too fast, we need to step on the brakes and consider safety. But with this new clip, she hasn't revealed anything about, the secret projects they're working on, or AGI, or anything like that. She's mostly discussing the character of Sam. She's claiming that Sam has consistently lied about many things, and the crazy thing is, at least according to her, she didn't even know about ChatGPT until she found out on Twitter. Now, again, I try to be as objective as possible with this video. I'm just sharing what she said. I'm not sure if everything is true or not, but let me know in the comments what you think of this. And then finally, going back to Jan Leike, again, it was 2 weeks ago where he announced that he will leave OpenAI. And again, he wrote quite a long thread of tweets. There's nothing shocking here. There's no specific details on what secretive, super intelligent project that they're working on. However, this tweet was very interesting. So he wrote, over the past few months, my team, and this was the alignment team that he led, has been sailing against the wind. Sometimes we were struggling for compute and it was getting harder and harder to get this crucial research done. So this was a very odd comment, struggling for compute, because OpenAI is partnering with Microsoft, who has all the compute in the world, right? They have their Azure data center, which is like the biggest data center in the world. So first of all, it seems like his alignment team wasn't allocated enough resources for them to do their jobs, whereas I think most of the compute resources were focused on developing better and smarter AI models. However, some of the criticisms that this guy got after he left was, well, why did you leave OpenAI if you're concerned about safety? OpenAI has the most compute, they're the ones who are moving the fastest, so in theory, OpenAI is the most dangerous. So if you are truly concerned about safety, shouldn't you stick around OpenAI and actually try to figure this out, instead of just saying to all the remaining OpenAI employees, I am counting on you? That seems like a very irresponsible thing to do. Well, today he just announced that he is joining Anthropic, and Anthropic is the direct competitor to OpenAI. In fact, Anthropic was started by ex-OpenAI employees Dario and Daniela Amodei. And they left OpenAI because they said they had a difference in opinion about prioritizing safety research. So it seems like Jan, who is also concerned about safety, is now joining sides with Anthropic. And the awesome thing about Anthropic is that they are partnering with AWS as well as Google. So Anthropic gets to use the data centers and the compute and the cloud services of Amazon and Google, which also has some of the biggest data centers in the world. Plus, Google has their own in-house tensor processing units. And I'm sure both Amazon and Google would just absolutely love to crush their competitor, Microsoft, which is of course partnering with OpenAI. So this is really cool. This means that Jan might actually get more compute to do whatever he wants to do at Anthropic. So anyways, that just sums up all that has gone on in the past week or so. As you may have heard, Scarlett Johansson is also suing OpenAI for impersonating her in their new GPT-4o voice model. Now, I actually didn't make a video on this because this is more like legal ramifications and not really related to AI, but let me know in the comments if you want me to make a video on this, if you're actually interested in learning more about this lawsuit. But anyways, that sums up this week's episode of my favorite soap opera, OpenAI. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. What do you think of Sam Altman versus Helen Toner? And what do you think of that very restrictive agreement? Do you think it's Sam's fault, or did he genuinely not know about it because it was just buried in a very long legal document? And now that they've released these restrictions, do you think some former employees will start to reveal the secrets of OpenAI? Maybe we'll soon start to hear about the secret projects that they're building behind the scenes. Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, as always, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.